Highlights from 2025, everybody. Happy New Year. I've got a couple of predictions I want to get into. I got lots of great guests. We have Alex Marlow coming in. We have Gabe Walter, Stuart Regis. We have Nicholas Hulcher coming in. We're going to talk a little fire, free speech. We're going to talk a little update on vaccines. And Alex Marlow comes to us from Breitbart Business Digest, amongst other things, and all the Breitbart news organizations. He was Breitbart's first employee. We will talk to all these gentlemen, and I'll give you some New Year's predictions and some a gratitude list for 2025, all coming up right after this.
Our laws, as it pertains to substances, are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say.
All right, we got a lot to get into. First, as I said, a little bit of gratitude for 2025. I just, if I'm leaving people off this list that I'm about to express some gratitude for them having joined us during the year, it's not that I'm not grateful for all of you. We had extraordinary guests. I'm grateful mostly to Emily Barsh for setting up all those guests, and Susan Pinsky for producing the show, and Caleb Nation for producing and helping us with the technical aspects of the show. We just had a major challenge, in fact, before we came on the air tonight, and both of them sprung into action. I'm exhausted now. So I came up just with people that came to mind for me. Probably there were people that were more recent than deeper in 2025, but let me just say I appreciate Mike Benz for coming in here and enlightening us all. He has been a source of clarity during 2025. Were it not for him, the blob would be a mystery to all of us, and so many of the behaviors of government would be inexplicable were it not for Mike Benz. He's also gotten deep into the Epstein file and helped us understand that he was running a bank that essentially laundered money for arms sales. Shocking. And that was magically why he got some money under his belt. Mike, thank you for being here, and thank you for all your work in 2025. If you follow Mike Benz, he has some extraordinary videos still up on his X. Check it out. Naomi Wolf, we are always grateful for Naomi. She, of course, straightens me out at all times, particularly as it pertains to freedom, issues around freedom and protection of women. She always has on her mind what is best for women. And because of that, she has been an early warning system for some of the adverse events of things like vaccine and their effect on women. Aaron Siri, I'm grateful for his book. He's an attorney. He's been an extraordinary advocate. There's Naomi for a second. And here's Aaron. Aaron has been fighting the real fight. And what he pointed out, and I think I suggest you look at his material, that when you put people that are so-called virologists and vaccine experts on the witness stand and hold their hand to the fire for categorical truths, there are few. There are a few, and we should make note of that as scientists. I got a couple more. Tish Hyman, who for her work, there she is. Tish blowing the whistle on protecting women and women's spaces. I had to bring Susan in 26. We had to bring Naomi and Tish in maybe sometime. That'd be a really interesting combination. And Tish is still out there speaking her mind. By the way, she had an extraordinary physical transformation over the last 18 months or so. Her workout schedule, I suggest, is inspirational, and you might follow that on her X as well. Peter McCullough, he's always a source of inspiration. He's been someone we have looked to on COVID information and vaccine information since the beginning of that crisis. He has come in here with Nick. Nick Hulcher is part of his team, and Nick's going to give us some updates today. And so when we can't get Peter, we get Nick Hulcher in here. And Peter, of course, is part of the wellness community, our wellness company. TWC.com. We've got some really interesting things coming up in 2026 for TWC. It's one of my distinct pleasures and sources of gratitude is TWC and all that they have done for patients, and we're going to be doing more in 26. And finally, Jenny McCarthy, who kindly came in here. She appeared for the first time ever with her son, who himself had been vaccine injured, and I issued Jenny an apology Not because I agree with everything Jenny says, but I was dismissive, much the way I was dismissive to Naomi. And that dismissiveness was uncalled for, and it did not pay proper respect to her instincts as a mother and what she observed and what her concerns are. And those concerns should have been honored and listened carefully to by all to double check that we are doing no harm, which is our job as physicians. So that's my fave list. I have some predictions also. I think I'm going to hold off on predictions, maybe somewhere towards the middle of the show. I'll give you my predictions because there's a lot of them. I wrote down a whole bunch, and I want to test some of them with Nick because some of them are sort of vaccine related. But right now, I want to bring Alex Marlow in, of course. Alex from Breitbart. You can follow him on X, Alex Marlow, Marlow. Let's see, Breitbart News, Breitbart.com. Alex needs no introduction. He's been here before, and he was Andrew Breitbart's first employee. Alex, I appreciate you being here.
Dr. Drew, it's always so nice to be with you, and I'm glad this is a regular thing. I've been listening to you on the air since I think I was 12 or 13, so it's pretty surreal that this is part of my life, but I'm happy it is.
I hope at 12 your tender ears were sort of not overcome with what we were discussing on Love Line. But
yeah, you mentioned that before. Maybe that was the central trauma of my life is too easy access to K-Rock growing up. Maybe that's what it was, but it's possible. Look, by the way, I'm going to be on KRLA and all the Salem stations coast to coast at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific starting the 5th. So that's my big project for the new year.
So radio, wait, tell us more about this.
Yeah, I've always loved radio, and an hour opened up. I'm sad to say because of my friend Charlie Kirk's passing. I'm sort of an unofficial spokesperson for Turning Point. I was very close to Charlie, and the Charlie Kirk show still goes on. It's a great podcast still, but they're moving in a different direction on the radio front. And I'm going to be doing an hour on in Charlie's old 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific slot, and then Scott Jennings comes in right after me. Charlie was a big fan of Scott's as well, so hopefully we'll be able to carry that torch into the new year.
Is it going to be a radio show per se, or just a sort of a broadcast of a podcast or something?
It's a great question, and this is where I'm going to be inventing the wheel to a degree. So all the radio shows will also come out as podcasts, and then I'll be doing 3 additional podcasts a week that'll be a similar format to the one you did with me, which is where we'll do a deep dive interview, or perhaps I'll do an extended monologue. But it's going to be live radio for an hour, which will become podcasts, and then there'll be additional podcasts. And if you follow any of my feeds, then you'll be able to get all that and check it out.
All right, let's get to some of the materials that you've been writing about lately. I'm fascinated. I was going to talk about Silver, but I'm really fascinated by the fact that Hollywood is lining up behind Gavin Newsom. That is inexplicable to me. There's the same people whose homes burned down and were not salvaged because of his incredible ineptitude. Now they're going to line up behind this guy?
Yeah, it's all casting. So think about the whole Barack Obama phenomenon. Remember when Obama came to power, when he had his rise, after that, I guess with the 2024 DNC up until 2008, he was a unknown guy, strange name, no history to speak of. What we knew about his history was sort of a mystery. And it was really Jeffrey Katzenberg and David Geffen who pointed to him and said, that's the guy. We're not going with Hillary. She's too unlikable. She's got too much baggage. This guy is sort of a blank slate. He inspires people's imagination. We're going to put all of our force behind him. It was a total shock in Hollywood at the time. I was growing up then, and I was pretty much witness to it firsthand. I went to prep school at Harvard Westlake, which is at the heart of Beverly Hills. It's sort of the heart of the power center for the Hollywood class. And they just anointed him. They cast him as the president, and they were able to pull that off. So that's what they do. And they're always looking for that opportunity. And they did try it with Kamala Harris. She was the donor darling. And I wrote about this a lot in some of my research into Joe Biden. I wrote a best-selling book about Joe Biden. And one of the reasons that Harris got the nod was that she was the favorite of both Silicon Valley in Hollywood when it came to the donors. I think they're burning out on her. I think they saw that she's nothing to offer. She can't speak clearly. She doesn't stand for anything. I think New York Times had a great line that she wants to be heard, but she doesn't know exactly what she wants to say. And so that was a line about her from this year. And I think they're seeing, we can't run her again. So Newsom's the next guy there. Yeah. He's out of central casting, as everyone loves to say, as a president, even though he has a terrible record. He doesn't have no record. You know this. His record's horrible. He hasn't improved one thing in the state. But I think they're going to try it. They might try someone else, but he's their best shot right now. I also
don't understand why he seems like a huge liability from the standpoint of some of his behaviors. Why there aren't women speaking up about, why there's not Me Too all over the place. And how have they shut that down? And why isn't that cracking through it? And why aren't investigative journalists asking some questions?
Well, if you're right of center, you're trying to time it. You're trying to hold that football until later on. So if you're a Oppo researcher, or if you're someone in my line of work, and I'll tell you hand up, I don't have any bombshells that I'm hiding at the moment, but I'll tell you, if one got dropped to my lap after this conversation, I would think about when to release it, because it is perhaps might be strategically optimized to release it when he's already way ahead in a primary, which he's running. He's obviously running. Right. He's been running since I was in diapers, basically. And he doesn't care that his record's terrible. And he has enough momentum. He's got the power of the force of personality. And that matters a lot right now.
Wow. That's astonishing to me that someone can have this kind of record that he has, and then just because he's dreamy, he's on his way.
Who else do they have? Who else do they have, Drew? Yeah, but who else do they have?
I don't know. They ought to dig deep into the bench. I don't know. How about Fetterman? I'd vote for Fetterman.
But that's the whole point, is that he's too pro-Israel. He goes against the establishment too much. They don't like that he relates to blue-collar people. They like the elite. They like a top-down party. They like a party that's controlled. Wow. Remember, they hate democracy. I wrote about this a lot. You just flash breaking the law. The left has subverted their own primaries for the last decade, nonstop. They handpick Hillary. They handpick Obama. They basically make everyone clear out of the way for Kamala Harris to be the nominee last time. It's really corrupt what they do.
Yeah, I've seen it. I get what you're talking about. I'm getting a little disgusted by this one. Let's get off this for a second. Right. You also co-wrote an article for Breitbart Business. Talk to me about silver. I understand the demand for silver. I don't understand the short-term craze.
Yeah, so the short-term craze, part of it is because silver prices are up about 160% this year, and it's the largest annual climb since there's an inflationary shock in 1979. What's happening right now is really a pullback from what had become sort of speculative mania. And so what we saw that now that there's a higher margin requirement, meaning traders have to deposit more collateral for metals trading. And that basically means that you have to put down more cash to buy gold or silver. And the purpose was to cool the mania, and it worked. Silver prices crashed. So now they're up again, and people have decided that the crash was over and done with, the crash of yesteryear. And so people are having a bit of a frenzy for it. And one of the reasons is high demand for solar power. Europe and China are still building a lot of solar. We're scaling back to some degree in America, though not that much. But there's a high demand there. And then also AI. And so there's a huge grab for new technologies, and people are trying to get these metals, coppers in this group. And so it's always a hedge. Silver's always been a hedge. And now that with all of this sort of the AI arms race we're in, piggyback that onto some stuff, some of the green policies, some of the EVs, and there's a lot of reason to buy silver right now. So it might not stop.
So I want to read between the lines of what you're saying. That demand should fill in this short-term price increase and justify it.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what's going to happen to a degree, and it might kick back a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if the prices stay pretty elevated based off of what I've been able to read.
That's interesting. And then tell me about Breaking the Law, the book.
Thank you. Yeah, and you were kind enough to have me on before, and that means a lot to me. I'd say your research, I don't take my books lightly. I try to make it as fun to read as possible. You will laugh out loud at a few of the sections, the E. Jean Carroll section in particular, when you go through how absurd that case is. But I'm basically laying out what I think is the scandal of the century. It is that the Joe Biden Justice Department and the upper echelons of America's legal establishment coordinated with what I call the lawfare superstructure. And this is really the whole legal firmament, from law schools to bar associations to district judges, to try to subvert the 2024 election. They tried to do what they could to make sure Donald Trump wasn't on the ballot, as they attempted multiple states, to make sure that he was bankrupt. They assessed him cruel and unusual fines that no other president in history would have been able to weather. And they tried to make it so that he had to campaign from a courthouse instead of on the campaign trail. I've never seen an assault on democracy like this ever before. I can't think of a close second that we've seen in this country. And we're being entirely too casual about it. And so what I do is I try to map out how bad it was, how there were connections to Joe Biden's White House in all the 6 major cases against President Trump. I go through the historical precedent why we could have seen something like this coming. And then I finally offer some solutions on how to investigate the bad guys and how to make sure this never happens again.
Well, you mentioned casual. Is it not the case, though, that, I mean, one of the big criticisms and complaint about Pam Bondi is that she's not going fast enough on addressing this issue. But I have heard, at least rumored, that the expectation is anyway, that she's building a case. Is that erroneous?
Oh, no, it's quite possible. And I don't know Pam Bondi really at all. I had a lot of access to President Trump himself and his legal team when I was researching the book, but I've not. Pam's worked well with us at Breitbart, and she tips us off to things from time to time. I don't know her personally at all, and it's a huge bureaucracy. The DOJ is 100,000 employees, so sometimes it's hard to know what the right hand knows what the left hand is doing. And this process can play out, and it will. We're already seeing some good movement. Jack Smith, who was unconstitutionally appointed, he was appointed as purely a political initiative by Joe Biden's Department of Justice. His job did not exist. It was a fake job. It took 18 months to figure that out. The entire time, he was going through a targeted harassment campaign against Trump and his family, which was always going to get thrown out, and it finally did. He was the whole time leaking the New York Times, leaking to the Washington Post, all sorts of details he shouldn't have been. Very bad stuff. He's under investigation. Tish James, what more can I say that has already been said? Is clearly a political operative masquerading as a legal person. She's under investigation for doing the exact same things she accused Donald Trump of doing. All that's terrific, but there's probably another half dozen more investigations that need to take place. And I think they will, and breaking the law does serve as a bit of a primer for those.
And do you have confidence? I know Pam's been nice to you, but I don't have an opinion about this. I keep hearing sort of frustration with her. You think she's up to this one?
I always err on the side of the frustrated. I have very low expectations that the government solves any problems. I know this as a California resident, Dr. Drew, to bring it back to our first conversation. Never seen a problem the government solved. So that's why ultimately my recommendation, I have recommendations for elected leaders in the book and for appointed leaders. But my ultimate one is that we stay engaged. We stay 24/7. You know, it's New Year's Eve. We could be talking about anything. We're having a serious conversation. I love that. We need to be fired up. We can't sit out the next midterm. We can't sit out the interim elections. We've got to get the highest integrity people in office across the land.
To that point, New Year's Eve, Happy New Year's to you and to everyone. Would you sit with me a bit and review some predictions? And maybe offer a couple of your own?
Of course.
All right. So let me see things you might be interested. Oh, I feel the silver crash is going to pull back, but not as much as people expect it to.
I think that's right. I don't see any reason why you'd see any sort of a crash. I could be dead wrong on this. Please, your results may vary. Do not assume this is official financial advice. But I think that a lot of, with the AI arms race going on and with people wanting to hedge against a lot of insecurity, the media's hysteria, I feel like a slight pullback maybe, but not too much.
Will there be, I predict there will be some sort of, I don't know if it's a Doge plus or give Doge a little extra power, or we actually put together some sort of fraud czar. Something like that seems to me like it needs to happen. Do you agree with me?
Not only does it need to happen, it will, because it's a incredible campaign
That's a prediction.
issue. This is one where full subscribe, full endorse this prediction, because it's got, first of all, it's the right thing to do. And second of all, this is the lowest of hanging fruit for the party in power, the Republicans, because the main buzzword right now in Washington is affordability. And what can make things more affordable than crossing out the fraud and making sure that the money for the daycare owners or for the daycare children and for the foster kids and for the autistic kids who need extra care, that actually goes to those families that are struggling and not to a bunch of fraudsters? Yeah, so we're going to have a czar that's going to look into that for sure.
I realize these are my predictions, again, for those of you wondering what I'm meandering through here. I'm going to have them dribbled through the whole show, but I'm realizing a lot of my stuff were sort of business predictions. I also think robot, the sort of those cool taxis robot taxis that Tesla was rolling out. I think those are going to explode. I think they're going to take over a city somewhere by the end of 26.
So they're going to explode in a negative or positive light?
No. In like the number, the reliance on those taxis, they're so cool, they're so good. When they really get rolling, it's going to go boom. There's going to suddenly be a lot of them that sort of take over the business of driving.
I think so. I think this is coming, and I'll tell you, as someone who's a small bit of a control freak streak, I like to be the one driving the car, but I'm already starting to make my peace, and I think one day a robot's going to be driving me everywhere. And
there's something. I'm going to tell you something. There's something psychological about those. If you see the vans he put together, those buses, those little buses with like four people, that somehow feels like it's on that feels like safer somehow, like it's on a track. Like I believe psychologically that's going to be different than sitting in a sedan where there's no one in the driver's seat. You know what I mean? I think people will feel differently like that, almost like a people mover.
Here's the thing: is I'm very much a layman on the technology side, but I follow it closely, and I know I'm not a dumb person. I feel like I can get my mind around this technology. It feels like we've got the sensors to make it so that we can do this in a safer way and avoid the human error. So it just feels like an explosive growth market. So I don't know if it'll be this year, but I think it's coming.
Well, people keep predicting Waymo, and I'm sort of going against that and saying, yes, Waymo, but those buses, I swear, some about those things are going to start to go. And then finally, robots generally. I think people don't understand that what you and I are talking about here are robots. They just happen to be with four wheels. And I think the humanoid type robots are going to come in 26 in some sort of significant way, but it's going to take till the end of the year to get them where they can do something. And I think people will like it.
So I got 4 small children, and they love to point out the Waymos and say robot car. That's what they say, robot car. So
interesting.
So that's it. I will say that I believe that we could be more than a year out on the humanoid robots. I'll say this as a semi-obsessive on this matter. I can't tell you, Dr. Drew, I've sent hundreds, maybe thousands of robot-related tips to the Drudge Report over the years about robots, about stuff I'm reading. Like, this is really something I've been interested in for a long time. It always feels like it goes slower than you think on the robot front. Let's talk about that one next New Year's Eve.
Okay. Well, you're the exact right person for me to have this conversation with. But I'm gonna take the position that it's like the way Hemingway described bankruptcy: slow, then fast.
You could be right.
And I think when the asymptote occurs, I put a lot of faith in Elon's rhetoric. When he says something's going to happen, that's the one thing I learned reading his biography. When that guy decides something's going to happen, it's going to happen. And he'll find a way. He will just never sleep or eat until it happens.
So here's my take on this. So first of all, I agree on the robot cars. I am agnostic so far on the humanoid robot, the mass adoption there. But I do think some of the we're going to live on Mars stuff that does feel a little bit, kind of an Edison-esque trying to get attention for stuff. I have no idea if that's real or not. And obviously he's got about 1,000 IQ points on me, so maybe it is. But my interpretation of that is that was his way of getting attention to all of his other stuff. But some of it is.
I completely agree. Oops, hold on here. We had a major. Susan, the camera's broken here too. Oh, no. Deal with the camera. Oh God. Before we deal with that. Okay, teleprompter.
Should I do classic radio and start?
And also, you got to get the camera aligned here. Yeah.
Did I start filibustering?
If I had a robot in here, this all would have worked. Sorry. But I don't believe there will be mass adoption of the robot thing. I agree with you on that one. I think there will be some sort of significant rollout that people will like more than we imagine. That's sort of what I'm saying. But have you read his biography, the Isaacson biography on Musk?
I will get to it though. It's on my list.
Happened.
I feel bad. Okay. I always like to say yes when I read a book.
Okay, but this one, here's what you'll learn, and you tell me if we'll talk again about this after you've read it, whenever that might be. but it's an assignment, my friend. I'm assigning you something,
no,
but you can
I'm
do
gonna
it
do
on
it.
your leisure.
Yeah.
So, okay. So what I thought I was going to read about was the smartest guy in the world. Like this was like his intellect was going to blow my mind. That's not what I read about. That's not who I read about. Although he has 1,000 points on both of us, I agree. But that's not. It's not what I read about. What I read about was a guy who was the most relentless human being I've ever come across. And I know a lot of relentless people, and I myself am sort of relentless that way. He was next, otherworldly in terms of not just his drive. The drive sort of goes without saying. It's a relentlessness. You know, you hear the rumors of him sleeping on the floor of the factory and all this kind of stuff. Yes, all the time. And that's while he's calling for meetings out on the launch pad at 3 a.m. It's also why while he goes to bed at, his wife at the time goes to bed, he's pacing, worrying about something, sits down at the end of the bed at 10:30. She wakes up at 4 a.m. He's still sitting in the exact same position, trying to solve problems. That's who this guy is. And so I'll tell you what, I'm always betting on him. That's my fallback. I'll bet on Musk, even when it seems phantasmagorical what he's saying.
Okay, well, and I'll do devil's advocate on that too. I think that's part of why his stock is so high, which allows him to keep doing more things, is because
that's stupid. Excuse me, but that's dumb. The stock is dumb. But that's not his fault. He's been saying since the beginning that Tesla's going to fail.
It's not his fault. He's been very candid about that stuff, and it's always very interesting when he speaks about it. No, it's obviously you could choose a lot of otherworldly, admirable qualities that he's got. I sometimes can't tell what of it. Some of it is, it's like an excellent poker player. It's like sometimes he's got the best card. Sometimes I think he's just playing the most aggressive. And sometimes I can't tell which one. I think robot cars, he's got the cards. Going to Mars, I think he probably doesn't. Like it's maybe.
I know what you mean. I agree with you.
Yeah.
And it is Edison-esque. I completely agree. That's exactly what it is. And yet he creates reality out of that.
Totally right.
He forces reality to bend. So we'll leave it there. I appreciate you being here. Where would you like people to go to find you? They've got to get the book, Breaking the Law. Where else? Where shall we go?
Yeah, for this audience, number one, be Alex Marlow podcast, Apple, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify. Give me a subscribe. And if you are in the car or like listening to the radio at noon Eastern for an hour on any Salem station, I know it's 870 in our neck of the woods, Dr. Drew, that's coming up. And as always, Breitbart.com, best place to get your news, Breitbart.com.
Alex Marlow, everybody. AlexMarlow.com. Alex Marlow on X, and we'll talk to you in 26. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Dr. Drew. Appreciate you so much.
You got it. All right.
Caleb, if I can center the camera.
Yeah, you can. You can center it. I'll move over. I was working to get in the center of the camera. That's good.
The sun came out behind you too.
All right, good. We'll talk about that during the break. Coming up, Gabe Walters from the Fire Org on X. Of course, Fire is the free speech organization. We've spoken to them several times. I am a huge fan of their work on campuses. And Stuart Regis, what we're going to talk about, amongst others, a lot of First Amendment issues that Fire is getting into. But initially, we're going to talk about this University of Washington land acknowledgement mandate that Stuart Regis filed suit over and won. And we've got a lot to get into here with Gabe and Stuart. And we'll have Nick Holscher a little bit later. We're going to talk a little vaccine. And I will have more of my 2026 predictions with Nick, because a lot of them are scientific. I've got some interesting ideas about that. And my last business prediction, which is an easy one, I didn't have to give this one to Alex so much. 50,000 on the Dow, no problem. They'll be there in 2026. That's right. And both Alex and I were saying that silver will end up better than people think, or at least will sustain better than some of the those that think this is a big short. I'm going to say are going to be wrong mostly. Back right after this. Next year, the national debt is going to hit $40 trillion. As insane as that sounds, it's even worse when you consider unfunded liabilities for Social Security and Medicare. If our status as the world's reserve currency suddenly changes, our nation could collapse under the weight of its debt. And as we all know, there are many forces trying hard to take down that US dollar. This is why thousands of Americans are moving portions of their retirement into physical gold and silver. Our friends at Augusta Precious Metals have put together a 3-minute report entitled Debt Will Hit $40 Trillion in 2026. Prepare your retirement now. It details how a self-directed IRA with real physical assets may be the best option in 2025. Go to drdrew.com/gold. That is DRDREW.com/GOLD, or text Drew, DREW, to 35052. That's 35052. And you'll get instant access to this crucial report. If you have $50,000 or more in your IRA, 401k, TSP, or other retirement accounts, consider our friends at Augusta Precious Metals to give you the information you need to make an informed decision about your retirement. It's fine to fight for our nation's future, but we all need to protect our own futures first. Read this important 3-minute report by visiting drdrew.com/gold. That is drdrew.com/GOLD, or text Drew to 35052. And see what Augusta can do for you. I've spent most of my career dealing with illnesses that shorten life, and now we have ways to extend it and extend wellness. I've been working with the team over at V-Shred to develop a product that has everything I want in a longevity supplement. NR Boost has nicotinamide riboside. You know, metal can rust. Well, your body behaves in a similar way. It's mediated through something called NAD. NAD falls as we age, so we're less able to fight off that oxidative process. We oxidize much like that metal. And NAD fights it, but nicotinamide riboside elevates NAD so we can push back on those oxidative stressors, improving health, improving longevity. The other product is Senosync, has fisetin, one of the key molecules to fight off zombie cells, and we've added resveratrol to that, which is a well-known anti-aging antioxidant again. I don't like supplements that have a ton of ingredients. To me, it suggests that none of it's working. When I prescribe a medication, I prescribe that medicine because I expect that to work. That is exactly what I've done with these products. And I want you to go to drdrew.com/vshredmd for 10% off. Again, that is drdrew.com/vshredmd.
Smell is sexy. Or sushi. Or Dr. Drupinski.
What?
Well, okay. I want to talk a little bit about the early start of your year, making it as healthful, your healthful eating regimen for 2026. Paleo Valley's beef sticks and bone broth, of course, should be part of that plan. Go to drdrew.com/Paleo Valley for 15% off your first order and 20% when you subscribe. After Thanksgiving, Christmas, and well, maybe even tonight, some of us may have some concerns about the way you've been eating. Here is why we love all these products. The cattle are grass-fed and finished. The bone broth is what it says it is. It's bone, not hide, full of protein, collagen. Listen, it's 80 calories per scoop, and it really does a great job of managing appetite. I use it all the time. The beef sticks are also about 80 calories. They're delicious. There's a variety of flavors, protein-rich, nutrient-rich, fermented, so not overly processed. Either the bone broth or the meat sticks have GMO, soy, or gluten. 2026 will be different, no different for us when it comes to putting chocolate bone broth in our coffee every day and eating beef sticks, especially when I'm traveling. In fact, Susan, I'm going to load a bunch of them back in my suitcase and my carry-on. That is, I know I just roared through them. That is drdrew.com/Paleo Valley for a 15% discount, or subscribe to save 20%. Coming up now, by the way, Susan was running around here complaining that we should have bought gold and silver when we met with the Augusta Gold guys, Augusta Precious Metal guys, and gave us our educational package, and we dragged our feet, and Susan's angry. Gabe Walters is an attorney with the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression. He has litigated major free speech and freedom of information cases, published in the New York Times, Washington Post. You can follow him and the entire organization at thefire.org on X. Stuart Regis is a University of Washington professor who prevailed in a federal court case defending his right to criticize land acknowledgement policies. You can learn more about that at stuartregis, REGES.com. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Happy Drew.
I want to ask Stuart first. Do you still have a job in St. Louis? Are you still there at University? Is University of Washington Seattle or is it St. Louis?
Seattle. University of Washington in Seattle. I still have a job. I'm in the second year of a 3-year contract right now.
And what has I'm so curious about your ability to stand up to your peers and the administration, and then what that does to you when you try to go back and teach.
Well, I kind of went from being a hero on campus, a hero of diversity and championing women in computer science, to being considered a villain. It's been an interesting experience, but I'm sure you're aware that for the last 10 years, there's been this growing orthodoxy on campus, and I've been pushing back against it in various ways. There are faculty members who will not make eye contact with me, that will not say hello. Basically, I've been removed from all of the activities that I used to do, like greeting new students, greeting parents, of students who are prospective undergrads. They don't invite me for any of that anymore.
And so what is your sacrilege? This is so religious. It's so crazy that people are behaving. You're now sin. You're not sanctified by the canon. I mean, it's just like, it's like Martin Luther. It's this craziest thing. But
yeah. Well,
what is it you've done to have sinned?
Well, I wrote an article in 2018 called Why Women Don't Code that got a lot of attention. I basically said that women and men make different choices in life. And so we shouldn't necessarily expect 50-50, women in computer science. That was sacrilegious. That people wanted me fired for that. They said he can't be allowed to teach courses anymore. I kind of survived that, in some sense, but the land acknowledgement was the one that went, I think, a little too far. Our diversity committee—
Explain that one to us.
Yeah, the diversity committee encouraged us to do a land acknowledgement on our syllabus. And I realized I had an opportunity to do something that they wouldn't like. So I made a parody of the university's land acknowledgement. So they talk about, I acknowledge the Coast Salish people, who originally lived on this land. And I said that by the labor theory of property, which is John Locke's theory, the Coast Salish people can claim historical ownership of almost none of the land currently occupied by the University of Washington. So I kind of said the thing that you're not supposed to say, which is they don't have a claim to this land. And they freaked out.
And the logic of those sorts of conversations always amuse me, in the sense that whom did they settle the land from? Whom did they take it from? What was Rousseau's version of the kindly natives? He had a phrase
the
for
noble
it.
Savage.
The noble savage. I mean, that they were peaceful and peace loving and just want to be left alone. I was doing some study on the Sioux and the Dakota and certainly the Comanches, and there was a lot going on. It's not the way we'd like to think of it. Not that the white man was not duplicitous and not a problem, and there's many unspeakable things, but that's the way history has been, right?
But a funny thing, Dr. Drew, is that the one thing that people don't talk to me about is that. They're not interested in discussing the issue of whether there's a claim to the land. They're just so offended at what I said. Our director said that mentioning John Locke's theory was demeaning to American Indian students. You shouldn't be allowed to discuss John Locke, whose ideas became the source for the Declaration of Independence. I think that Jefferson said it was his favorite philosopher. I feel like I got more people to read John Locke than almost anybody else on campus.
He was an old white man, and what could he possibly have to offer? I mean,
settler colonialism. I don't know. Yeah.
So, right. So somewhere we got to get back to reality. And by the way, I've been trying to. There's some really serious things that need to be done to help support the indigenous people, the Native Americans, in terms of the trauma of their past and what has happened. And we're just doing nothing to help them with those problems other than these rhetorical excesses. And that's the part that bugs me.
Yeah, it's just performative. I mean, if you're going to make this claim, I mean, if you really think that this is like stolen land or something, then let's give it back, or let's move the university or something, compensate the tribes. I mean, if you were going to do something,
or try to understand what that has done to subsequent generations, and let's address it. Let's really get in here, but we're not doing it anyway. But that's sort of, there are many different. Let me bring Gabe in for a second, because Gabe is the attorney for FIRE. And you're obviously listening to this conversation. Are you amused by this? Are you mortified by it? Is this the kind of conversation you prefer people are able to have on campuses?
Well, Dr. Drew, I think people should be having all kinds of conversations from a multitude of perspectives on our college campuses, because if that's not where we do it in this country, then where do we do it, right? But I know you know FIRE very well, Dr. Drew, but for your listeners and your viewers, I want to make clear that we're a nonpartisan, principled defender of the freedom of speech. So in the blue state of Washington, we have cases like Professor Regis's, and in the red state of Florida, we have cases like our Novoa litigation, where professors want to talk about so-called divisive concepts that are banned by the DeSantis administration. So this case is a huge win for academic freedom, for a public university professor's right to teach and talk about a matter of public concern. And it will redound to the benefit of professors in Seattle and throughout the Western United States. And it'll be persuasive precedent for our case in Florida and subsequent cases all over the country. So we're celebrating this win at the end of the year. And if your listeners, are celebrating with us, they like the work that that we do, they can follow us on X at the FIRE.org. They consider, becoming members or supporters at this late minute end of year cycle. That would be wonderful.
Let's be even-handed, make sure, and let's discuss what is it that DeSantis is preventing somebody from discussing that's mortifying to me.
Sure. So DeSantis and other governors like Governor Abbott in Texas have passed bills that prohibit public university professors from teaching concepts that are related to DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so in the Novoa case, Professor Novoa teaches the history of race relations in the United States, and has reason to believe that she will not be able to teach even from her own published materials, her own book, and carry on the classroom instruction that she's done for years now. And so we won at the district court in that case, and the court actually quoted George Orwell, the clock striking and all that from 1984, saying that for the government to tell our public university professors what they can and cannot say in the classroom, as they've done in Washington to Professor Regis here. It's just Orwellian. It's not what we expect of the academic freedom that we celebrate under the First Amendment.
There's a difference between them having administrative policies around hiring or whatever it is they do versus what professors and students can and cannot discuss. It's astonishing.
I think
me.
There are essential components of academic freedom in our public colleges and universities. And actually, who to hire and fire with respect to the faculty is one of those, right? Not necessarily with respect to staffers who don't enjoy the principle of academic freedom, but who can teach and what they may teach, or what they're precluded from teaching, are at the very, very core of academic freedom, which has long been recognized by Supreme Court precedent as a central concern or a special concern of the First Amendment.
And Stuart, you've been in universities for a while, and when I was in training, and I valued my education tremendously, and the core principle of what I thought I was doing, and I believe my peers thought we were doing, and to be fair, I was heavy on the STEM, but I went to a small liberal arts college, so there was lots of other things I was exposed to, was the notion that our job was to build our skill set so we could to ascend to a contemplation of the truth. Not that we would ever get there, but that we can at least ascend to an approximation of the truth. I feel like that is anathema on college campuses now. Like that will also get you dismissed by your peers.
Yeah, well, we went through this in the late 80s and early 90s. There was kind of a bunch of political correctness stuff that was happening. There were a lot of court cases at that time that kind of struck down hate speech policies at schools like Stanford and other universities. So it's happening again. I mean, basically, they're saying that your ideas are so bad that you're not allowed to even say them on campus. Their idea of inclusion is that we need to have a campus where you never hear these upsetting ideas. It's absurd. I mean, they don't understand what a university is supposed to be about.
I mean, look, I brought up Rousseau earlier. That's the Jacobins based their whole philosophy. That's why you got the Reign of Terror, because Rousseau sort of established this kind of framework, and they bought into it big time, and they invented totalitarianism along the way. But what I'm asking you though is, does truth have any value on college campuses anymore?
I think that the students still care. I think I've thought all along that it's a small group of progressive activists who've kind of driven this orthodoxy. And I think they're losing control. I hope they're losing control. I think there's a lot of liberals on campus who never liked a lot of this stuff. They thought it went too far. And I'm hoping that they'll kind of wake up and take back the campus.
Well, courage. And you've just been on display with your courage. Interesting. We just talking to you guys about this, and TikTok already just kicked us off. TikTok kicks us off regularly for Fire. I want to get you in there on TikTok. Maybe we got to bring. I know your focus is college campuses. Caleb, tell me what just happened and what has been happening to us on TikTok.
It's pretty, almost every single show that we do, we get kicked off of TikTok sometime in the middle of the live broadcast, and they put a strike on the account. We have to appeal it, go through the steps, then they remove it. So something in their automated side is automatically, but this show, we didn't even say anything about a medical topic or anything controversial. This is literally just free speech. They just kicked off a show about free speech off of the TikTok platform just for discussing free speech. That's how ridiculous it's gotten.
I have a sinner on my show, by the way. There's somebody who's dared to speak up to the Inquisition. The thing I find extraordinary is that everybody thinks they will be Schindler or they're going to be Galileo, but they're doing the opposite. Everyone's doing the opposite. They're all either being prison guards or they're being part of the Inquisition, and that is not who you want to be. Think about who you are. Professor Regis, I'm going to let you go. Any last thoughts before I do so?
Well, just that idea again, that I hope that I think that there's a majority of liberal faculty members who agree that this has gone too far. They may not like what I did. They may think I'm a rude guy, but I hope that they kind of take back the university.
Courage again is what's required. But yeah, first thing I thought, Stuart, is you're a rude guy. That's what I thought. So, okay. Anyway, if rudeness must be a virtue today. So good luck with that. Hopefully,
I'm okay with
that. Exactly. All right. Thank you so much for being here. Again,
thanks for having me.
Stuart Regis, REGES.com. Tell me more. What is coming up with Fire, Gabe? I'm just, as you know, I'm a gigantic fan. And you've mentioned the situation in Florida. What else is in your crosshairs?
Yeah, we're looking at Section 230. I mean, as you know, right now there's a bipartisan bill. There's widespread support to repeal Section 230. And in our opinion, it's just a terrible idea. I mean, it's based on a complete misunderstanding of what 230 is and how it functions. So let's make this clear, right? 230 provides an immunity from suit for internet platforms like X, like Twitter, formerly Twitter, like Instagram, like Facebook, for the content that its users post, right? It doesn't mean that the users are immune from suit for what they say. It just allocates legal liability in the right place, right? I'm responsible for what I say online, just like you're responsible for what you say online. But the X platform that we're broadcasting over right now is not responsible for what either of us says. And it shouldn't be, right? And that has allowed, I mean, we call it I think 28 words, if I'm not mistaken, that created the internet. Certainly Internet 2.0, which is, all social media driven and interactive. I mean, it's what allows us to have the freedom of speech online, because without it, if this bill passes, if it's repealed, right, then that will cause websites to have more draconian moderation of users' posts, not less moderation. And so repealing it will not achieve the results that critics of 230 think that it will. It'll do the opposite, because if we put legal liability at the hands of the platforms, then they will not allow us to speak a diverse view of points of view on any number of subjects, right? They'll take a very cautious approach.
It feels like this is a bit of a move for Fire away from college campuses, even though I can understand how college campuses would be deeply affected by this. Am I right on that, number one? And number two, are you having efficacy? Are you having traction?
Yeah, so in 2022, FIRE expanded beyond college campuses, right? We were founded in 1999, and for those years, we were primarily focused on what's happening on campus because, as we discussed with Professor Regis, right, campuses are this sort of cauldron of democracy. We're shaping citizens. We're preparing them to go out into the world and face a diversity of viewpoints and be full adult citizens, right? But we decided that there was a need to expand and to tackle a wide range of First Amendment issues in a number of other contexts off campus as well. And so we have a legislative team that's working with Congress on Section 230. We have a technology group that's working close in hand with them. Our litigation efforts have expanded as well. And we still maintain a core group of lawyers and others, other professionals who are looking at college campuses, doing cases, writing letters, doing advocacy work, reforming speech codes and other policies. And of course, our popular annual free speech rankings of college campuses come out every year based on survey results and other rubrics and are a big hit. And I'm sure you've covered those before.
Is that out now? Is that a new year thing?
It's not a New Year thing. I think it came out a few months ago, but it's on the website, fire.org. We were recently able to drop the from the URL. So fire.org. And your listeners can find the rankings there. And I've heard from parents that they use it kind of like a U.S. News and World Report when making decisions about where their kids should go to school. Right? You want a robust environment for the freedom of speech.
To that point, do you agree with what I was pushing Professor Regis about in terms of the lack of value in the truth in many of these campuses?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of purposes for the freedom of speech, and truth seeking is definitely one of them, and I think should be high on the list. There's sort of this postmodern, what is truth and does it really exist thing that's taken hold in universities, and for better or worse, that's not for me to really say. But there's also, the value of authentic.
I can say it's worse. It's worse.
But, there's also the value to authentic self-expression. And so, Professor Regis gets conservative students who come to him all the time saying, hey, I'm of a conservative bent and I don't always feel comfortable speaking up in class. And, or I want to start, a Young Republicans chapter and I need a sponsor. And so many of my faculty members, just aren't interested in helping me do that. Will you be that person for me? And so, Professor Regis serves that role on campus. And I think it's critical, that students from a wide variety of political and ideological perspectives feel comfortable on campus to speak their minds and engage in that debate and discussion that's so critical to learning. Because if you're not engaging in that back and forth, if your ideas aren't being tested, whatever they are, then how can you know that they're sound?
Yep. 100%. Well, listen, I appreciate, as you know, the work that FIRE does. Fire.org, is it still the FIRE.org on X?
It is.
Okay. And anywhere else you'd like me to send people as we start this new year? And maybe finish us off with a couple of predictions for 2026.
Sure. We've just seen in the news this week that the Trump administration, former Senator, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, have banned certain EU officials from entering the country because of their censorship efforts overseas. I would expect that to continue quite I would say here that what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? So yes, we are right to criticize EU censors for their censorship, and we should be encouraging them to take a more American free speech approach. And yet it's also the same Secretary of State and same administration that's rounding up students like Rameshia Ozturk from the streets with, by masked officials just because of an op-ed that they wrote. So if we criticize them for censoring speech that they don't like, we need to look in the mirror and we need to clean up our act at home. So one of my predictions is that the administration will continue to be hypocritical on this point, quite unfortunately, and we'll be there to fight them on it.
We are grateful for that. Thank you so much for joining me, Gabe. We'll talk again soon, I hope.
Thank you, Dr. Drew. Pleasure to be here.
Happy New Year. All right, we're going to go back into vaccines. TikTok would have kicked us off for this anyway if we had not had the free speech conversation. Nick Hulscher, you can look for him at thefocalpoint.com. Let's see anywhere else for Nick right now. That, I think, is it. Nick, of course, works with Dr. Peter McCullough, and he has done some wonderful publications. We're going to review what has happened in 25, what's coming up in 26 right after this. Weight loss and gum loss, the wellness company's got you covered with new products. Drop. It's for aggressive appetite control. It comes in easy-to-use liquid drops. No prescription, no painful shot. It is an oral peptide called retatrutide. It actually mimics the way the body naturally loses weight, and it is designed to support faster, more focused weight loss when combined with healthy eating and exercise. And Smile is a breakthrough fluoride-free peptide toothpaste. It gently whitens and reverses gum loss, actually rebuilding tissue at its source with a proprietary blend of peptides, remineralizers, and soothing botanicals. Go to drdrew.com/TWC for more information on Drop and Smile, and check out another new and innovative solution for hair loss called Roots while you're there. That's drdrew.com/TWC for 10% off. I'm excited to bring you a new product, a new supplement, Fatty. I take it, I make Susan take it, my whole family takes it. This comes out of, believe it or not, dolphin research. The Navy maintains a fleet of dolphins. And a brilliant veterinarian recognized that these dolphins sometimes developed a syndrome identical to our Alzheimer's disease. Those dolphins were deficient in a particular fatty acid. She replaced the fatty acid, and they didn't get the Alzheimer's. Humans have the same issue, and we are more deficient in this particular fatty acid than ever before. And a simple replacement of this fatty acid called C15 will help us prevent these syndromes. It's published in a recent journal called Metabolites. It's a new nutritional C15, pentadecanoic acid it's called. The deficiency that we are developing for C15 creates something called the cellular fragility syndrome. This is the first nutritional deficiency syndrome to be discovered in 75 years and may be affecting us in many ways, and as many as 1 in 3 of us. This is an important breakthrough. Take advantage of it. Go to fatty15.com/Dr. Drew to receive 15% off a 90-day starter kit subscription, or use code Dr. Drew at checkout for that 15% off, or just go to our website, drdrew.com/fatty15.
The other day he looked at me and he goes, "Hey, the V-shred's working." He likes it when I try to look good for him.
Very nice. There's an excitement that comes with doing these kinds of workouts that kind of sustains you through the day.
It's exhilarating.
It's not working out hours in the gym. It's not running on a treadmill forever. It's not killing yourself with diet. These are all very reasonable recommendations. You just got to follow it. We're actually really genuinely very excited about what we're getting out of this. We like doing it together. We're both in on this, and it's been a real fun adventure. I don't know where we stop.
In the first 2 weeks, I lost 5 pounds. So There you go.
In your 20s, it's easy, right? We put on muscle easily. We're fit. We got tons of stamina. But as you get older, you may not be able to lose weight as quickly or as easily. You may not be able to put muscle on so easily. And joints and muscles sometimes start to hurt. And you may think or may have been told that there's nothing you can do about it other than taking more pills, eating more salads, or just spending endless hours at the gym. Well, that isn't true. Thousands of people are in the best shape of their lives merely because they've taken the time to do 3 things. No crazy diets, no extraordinary workouts that you injure yourself or exhaust yourself. Just a simple plan that has been proven to work. Rather than me explaining this to you for 30 minutes, there's a 30-second quiz you can take. So if you want to learn more right now, click the link below to get your personal life plan. Nick Hulscher joins us. You can follow him at thefocalpoints.com. Nick, thank you for all you've been doing in 2025. You've been on fire with your publications. One of the things that I wanted to review with you was the peer-reviewed study on mRNA genetic disruption. Tell me about that.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And yeah, this study, there's a whole big backstory behind it, and it is very worrisome to say the least. So the first thing was we put this paper up on a preprint server hosted by MDPI, the publisher. It was targeted by what is called the pub peer or pub smear mob. and it was retracted for really unknown reasons from a preprint server. And so they took it off there, but we managed to get it published in a peer-reviewed PubMed indexed journal, the World Journal of Experimental Medicine. So now it is available for everyone to read. And what we found was we compared the gene expression profiles between a healthy control group pre-COVID to mRNA injured individuals, 3 with cancer and a few with neurological and cardiovascular adverse events. We found that in the mRNA injured, thousands of gene expressions become dysfunctional related to mitochondrial function, immune function, protein production. So they're creating abnormal proteins, as well as cancer surveillance genes are literally turned off, P53 and CRAS, as well as BRCA. And so basically what this shows is flooding the body with synthetic messenger RNA is unleashing biochemical havoc, and this has severe consequences.
I'm hearing also, and it's this very rumored buzz I'm hearing, so I may be completely wrong, and I don't know really where it's coming from even, or who would be pushing this out, but that the team over at MAHA is looking very seriously at some data that suggests profound harm from the COVID vaccine that has been largely suppressed. Are you hearing stuff like that? Are you seeing data like that?
Well, I'll tell you, I've seen the data. I am aware they recently had that leaked memo, the FDA memo of 10 child deaths, but that is just the microscopic tip of the iceberg. We now have 3 independent estimates of American deaths as a result of the COVID-19 vaccination campaign. It ranges from 480,000 up to 840,000 American deaths. One of these, the first estimate, is based on an extrapolation by a study by Florida Surgeon General Joe Ladapo. They had 1 million people from Florida, and Pfizer recipients faced a 36% increase in all-cause mortality, not from COVID-19, compared to Moderna recipients. So just extrapolating that mortality increase alone from Pfizer is about 480,000 American deaths from Pfizer alone. And then we have CDC mortality records using the Wonder database, indicating there may be 840,000 total deaths from these shots. So this is a sustained mass casualty event, and it appears to still be ongoing as many individuals appear to suffer from turbo cancers many years later or sudden cardiac arrests.
Do you think that some of this possible increase in cancer that people are talking about is related to what you were just talking about in terms of cancer surveillance genes being turned off?
Yeah, I think that's very plausible. And we have multiple corroborating studies now for cancer. We have 2 population studies totaling 8.4 million people combined. These were vaccinated versus unvaccinated. One was in Italy, one was in South Korea. And both of them combined found about the mRNA shots increased the risk of about 7 distinct types of cancers, ranging from colorectal, bladder, and prostate to breast and thyroid cancer. Overall cancer hospitalizations were up about 25% in the mRNA groups compared to the unvaccinated. And both mRNA and viral vector platforms appear to be carcinogenic. Both were correlated with increased risks of overall cancers. And then we move into the biological evidence, like we just mentioned, the transcriptomic chaos study we just published, but as well as there's been a few case reports. One we recently published showing the first evidence of genomic integration of mRNA vaccine genetic material in a stage 4 bladder cancer patient, as well as a paper by Professor Sano, I believe in Japan, found the vaccine spike protein, no nucleocapsid, literally within metastatic breast cancer cells. This breast cancer metastasized to this woman's skin, and they literally found the vaccine spike protein in the nucleus of those cells. So it appears that, unfortunately, yes, these cancers are happening as a result of the mRNA injections. And there was also another paper, I'll mention this last one, where it was published by Dr. Paul Merrick in the Journal of Independent Medicine. They defined the term COVID-19 vaccine-induced turbo cancer. So it is in the peer-reviewed literature. It is not a myth like the vaccine cartel claims.
And how do we distinguish this from the effects of COVID? Because I'm imagining COVID must do some of the same things. I mean, you're very zeroed in on the mRNA per se, but I've been zeroed in on the spike protein as pathogenic. There's got to be some consequence from COVID also.
Yeah, that's correct. The spike protein from both the virus and the vaccine is highly pathogenic. It's bad for every organ system. It does appear that the viral spike protein may also suppress tumor suppressor genes, but we don't know which one's more severe. We do suspect, though, the mRNA injections are more severe in that we are now finding vaccine materials in individuals 3.6 years after their last injection. This case report, we're about to publish it in the next week or so. Yeah, let me just quickly go over this. We found circulating Pfizer mRNA in his exosomes 3.6 years after his last shot. And we also found plasmid DNA from the manufacturing process SV40 ORI segments, as well as the spike expression segments in his skin. In his Grover's disease area, he developed this skin disease after the shots. And we also found vaccine spike protein and no nucleocapsid in this skin area as well. 3.6 years after his last shot, he suffered from myocarditis, pulmonary embolism, multi-system vaccination syndrome, neurological adverse events as well. And so the fact that we are finding this material 43 months after the last shot means we were lied to completely. We were told it would stay in the arm, it would degrade within weeks. That was wrong, and we expect lawsuits to begin to flood in.
Yeah, I don't think there's any more doubt about that having been complete fallacy. The localized, even just the localized lymph sort of processing of the vaccine is to complete fantasy. Let me, if you don't mind, I want to run some predictions for 2026 past you, and you tell me if these ring true and why for you, okay?
Definitely.
Yes?
Yes.
You're familiar with Dr. Soon Shong's vaccine to enhance killer cell function, killer T cell function, which would be a great way to respond to some of these reduced oncogene functions or reduced surveillance gene functions that you've been referring to. I'm of the opinion that although the mechanism looks good, and please call me wrong on this, but I'm just fearful in 2026 we're going to find out that although the in vitro mechanism looks good, the in vivo data looks good, it's not going to bear fruit the way we thought it might, that particular intervention.
Yeah, I agree with you on there. You know, it's going to be very difficult to find effective interventions to stop this vaccine-induced turbo cancer. We're going to have to find a way to ameliorate this biochemical havoc and transcriptomic havoc.
I mean, that was a great idea, right? Because when the surveillance system fails, the natural killer cells step in and then kill the nascent cancer cells. But if our natural killers are knocked down by COVID or knocked down by vaccine, boost them up. But I don't think it's working quite the way it's supposed to. But we'll see. I hope I'm wrong. I do believe, as you've already alluded, we're going to hear more on vaccine injury news, and it's going to become more of a position of the HHS to point out where this has really happened.
Yeah, I really do hope so. And I think 2026 will be the watershed year where we will at least have one state put a bill forth and pass a bill that will either restrict or ban these injections. Currently at the McCullough Foundation, we are working with multiple state legislatures on providing scientific support and policy language for bills to ban these mRNA injections in their states. And there's already been 4 filed recently. We expect up to 15 states in 2026. So this is a multi-state push to restrict these shots. So while the federal government is, working at a snail's pace, we are hoping to light a fire under them with the state level initiatives.
Understood. And again, hats off to the McCullough Foundation and yourself. I do believe we're also going to hear more on vaccine recommendations in childhood, but vaccine injuries in childhood. I think that's going to become also something more explicitly stated. Do you have any predictions on that?
Yeah, vaccine injury from the childhood vaccines will become much more talked about, I would think. We have seen indications, they already have, pulled back the hepatitis B universal infant recommendation. ACIP did that, so that was great. The CDC changed its website, on the language on its website, finally now saying they cannot claim that vaccines do not cause autism. So we are seeing positive steps there. But a recent paper just came out. It was by Children's Health Defense, Dr. Brian Hooker and Carl Jablanowski. They found that infants, 2-month-old infants, if they got all 6 of the CDC recommended vaccines compared to the unvaccinated, they suffered about a 68% increased odds of dying in the following month compared to the unvaccinated. So it appears that not only, and so there's been 12 studies now comparing vaccinated to unvaccinated. All 12 found the same thing. Vaccinated individuals are far sicker. They have more chronic disease, more autoimmune disease, more neurodevelopmental disorders, more autism, more speech delays, speech disorders, more tics, and more skin disorders, and everything under the sun. And we recently expanded on that in a reanalysis of the Henry Ford study, finding that all 22 chronic disease categories were higher in the vaccinated children. So we have now chronic disease elevations as well as mortality elevations. So this is very serious. We have to start talking about it and replicating this in other states.
And your prediction for 26 is that conversation will become more widespread?
Yes, I do think so.
Do you have other predictions for 26 for me?
Well, my prediction is we will see at least one state restrict or ban the mRNA injections. And I think we'll see more action of restructuring the childhood vaccination schedule. We know there was a memorandum of President Trump, or an order to match our vaccination schedule with other countries. And there is a study that indicates if we do match Denmark's vaccination schedule, we go from 72 doses down to about 11. We will save tens of thousands of children a year from autism. So, it would be a very great thing if that happens. I really do hope it does. But what I would like to see, and I've outlined this, or what I think needs to happen is, first of all, it's about 8 things. First is remove mRNA from the market. Second is develop treatments for the mRNA injured. There's millions of them. Third is repeal the PrEP Act. Fourth, repeal the 1986 National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act. They will have no more liability, Big Pharma, and they will be forced to make safer products. And then you can keep going down the list. We have glyphosate, ban glyphosate. Other countries have done it. It's widespread in the environment, and it's very cancerous to the human body. And a complete moratorium on gain-of-function research, an absolute ban. We saw an executive order earlier that does ban gain-of-function in high-risk countries, but we need a complete moratorium. We cannot risk another human-made pandemic.
Thank you, Nick, for that. I appreciate it very much. I know Sasha Latapova is jumping up and down with your repeal of the PrEP Act. She has been beside herself on her posts lately in terms of the harm that has done. Nick, we appreciate all the work you do. Anything else you'd like to say before I wrap this up?
I'll just say 2026, I think it will be a great year for public health. We're going to keep pushing, and I think it will be very positive.
Thank you, Nick. Talk to you soon. TheFocalPoints.com is where you should go. McCullough Foundation also. See you in the new year, my friend. All right. I have 2 more predictions in my own list. These are not related to vaccine or infectious diseases. They are, that we will finally address. If you noticed in the RFK hearings, the senator from Rhode Island took a took it was the only rational position of any senator in that entire hearing. And he built a case about the excessive spendings on end-of-life care in his state of Rhode Island. And he is absolutely right. And RFK seemed very responsive to that. I'm going to push on that. Our expense on fruitless care that only causes suffering has got to be addressed. It is insane. And if in terms of healthcare expense and savings and reducing suffering, that is a major, major area of improvement potential that people are not aware of that has got to be addressed. So I'm going to say in 26, we'll begin to address that at least. Also, my other prediction is that the mental health crisis that we're in will finally be actually addressed as such. Although it will take forever for us to do anything about it. I finally get my own sort of billboard there. Thank you, Caleb. I've been doing predictions all show.
I know.
You should have dropped it in like
I thought you were doing all the predictions at the end, so I had the graphic all ready for that.
Okay, well here I'm finishing the production. So to review my predictions, we talked about robots, we talked about a fraud czar, we talked about silver crash, I talked about vaccines, childhood vaccine, COVID vaccine being much more present in the news and explicit, and Dr. Soon-Shiong's vaccine maybe not bearing fruit the way we thought it would, and then finally end-of-life care and the mental health crisis. But the mental health issue is so profound in terms of the laws that are stacked up insanely against the ability to intervene. Look no further than Rob Reiner and his family's tragedy. Then there were laws there that prevented people from doing what they should have been able to do. So this kid doesn't end the rest of his life in prison and his parents don't end up dead. It is an insanity, particularly in the state of California. What's going on?
Somebody on YouTube said that they think they'll make laws called the Reiner laws that help protect people.
It would be amazing. I will get behind that with absolute deep enthusiasm. Thank you for even suggesting. I think it's a great way to proceed because people can understand that story if they understood what actually happened there and why that happened. It's not any failure of doctors or the parents, failure of the ability to do our job. Somebody should be able to take that kid and go, hey, it's going to spend a little time over here while we get you squared. You can't do it. It's illegal in California. And mostly they end up on the street and then they end up on drugs and then they become irretrievable at that point. So I want to say thank you to all of you that have supported us this year, and thank you to our sponsors. We are deeply grateful. we are so lucky to have the sponsors we have. They are all highest quality. We use all their stuff. The only mistake we've made with our sponsors is Susan's kicking my ass that we didn't buy gold and silver. So we'll have to do something about that in 26. But we just dragged our feet, and I understand how that is.
It doesn't mean I'm not going to.
I understand.
Yeah, I'm looking into it.
I'm sure.
We have a great sponsor. I think I'm going to check it out.
All right, they've educated us, and they will educate you. That's one thing they're very interested in doing. So, and that costs nothing. So, in any event, thank you to TWC, thank you to Paleo Valley, thank you to V-Shred. These have all been great people to work with all year. Am I leaving anybody out?
Somebody mentioned that they like V-Shred on our Rumble stream.
V-Shred does it. It's almost embarrassing to me
that means somebody tried it. I'm so excited.
It's almost embarrassing to me that I've not been doing more things like V-Shred because that is where health is sustained. And that's, again, I'll just say it over and over, the lack of muscle as we age is the enemy of aging. You got to maintain your muscle, to manage fat, manage diet, manage, our hormonal systems, get adequate sleep. There's all these things we should be doing, and I should be advocating very strongly about. And I'm trying to get behind that, and V-Shred has helped me do so. In any event, Susan, anything you want to say before I wrap this up? Or Caleb, you?
My prediction.
Susan? Yeah.
My prediction, but it's actually more of a hopeful prediction. This is what it is. Britney Spears goes Maha. And suddenly we have our classic Britney Spears back. She's going to do stadium tours. She's going to get healthy. She's going to get her mind right. That's my 2026 prediction. It's going to be Britney. Because look, we have Nicki Minaj. This is not too far-fetched, guys. Britney Spears goes Maha.
Nicki Minaj
gets
is
everything
awesome.
in order. She's up on stage with RFK.
I don't see Britney moving that direction, but God bless her if she does.
I don't see Nicki Minaj. Who expected
Nicki Minaj
that?
is awesome. I think I think this is something that Christina P. and I predicted at your mom's house years ago, where she particularly built the case that this was inevitable. We called it the rational revolution. And rationality will restore itself. We have these. I was thinking about we had to bring the mugs back out again, the Rational Revolution mugs, because they're so good. But it is time that rationality and common sense and all these things, truth, pursuit of the truth. Yes, nobody can know the truth except God. I understand that, but there is an ability of the human mind to ascend to something like the truth, which is exactly why we have the technologies that allow me to speak to you today, because somebody was monkeying with the physical universe, the truth of the physical universe, to result in the internet and computers and cameras. So the truth does matter, and it needs to reassert itself. And rationality as well. So rational revolution, everybody. We'll see you in 2026. Happy New Year. Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. Emily Barsh is our content producer. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.